Oracle in memory, analytics at the speed of thought. I mean, what does that even really mean? Today, we're going to dive into the story behind one single innovation that aimed to make that phrase a reality. And, it pretty much changed everything about how businesses looked at their own data.
So, picture this. It's the 2010s. Your business is moving faster than ever. You've got these critical questions, right? How are sales doing right now? What's our inventory look like? But the answers? Well, they're always stuck in yesterday's data. You'd have to wait overnight. That gap, that delay between asking and knowing, it wasn't just frustrating. It was a huge problem, a real competitive killer.
And all of that frustration leads us right into our first big idea here, the need for speed. It's pretty simple, really. The expectations were fundamentally changing. Waiting around for answers just wasn't going to cut it anymore. It went from being a minor headache to a major business liability.
But why was this so hard? I mean, why couldn't you just speed things up? Well, to get that, you've got to understand that behind the scenes, the whole world of data was basically split in two. It was living this weird double life, with two types of work that honestly just couldn't get along. They could not play nice in the same sandbox.
And that brings us right to the technical heart of the problem, a tale of two formats. The entire conflict, the whole reason for that split, came down to one single fundamental choice. Do you store your data in rows or do you store it in columns? Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, as we're about to see, that one decision created a massive headache with no easy fix.
Okay, so let's break this down because this is really the key. On one side, you've got row storage. The best way to think about this is like a library checkout card for one specific book. You need to find that one book and update its status. Perfect. Super fast. That's your everyday transaction, what we call OLTP. But then you've got column storage. This is totally different. This is like the library's master index of every single author. If you want to ask a huge question, like how many sci-fi books did we sell last year? Column storage is your best friend. It just scans that one genre column and gives you an answer like that. That's analytics, or OLAP. The problem? Try using that master index to update a single checkout. It's a nightmare. It is painfully slow.
And so this forced this awful choice on businesses. You could have fast transactions, or you could have fast analytics, but you couldn't have both, not in the same system. So what did they do? They built two separate systems, one to run the day-to-day business and a whole other one, usually a copy, just to analyze it. You can see the problem, right? This created these massive data silos, all this complexity, and yep, there's that overnight delay we talked about. You had to pick your poison, and neither one was great.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. This is where Oracle steps onto the scene with a completely different idea. Instead of trying to make rows a little better at analytics or columns a little better at transactions, they said, forget that. We're going to change the entire engine.
And here it is. This was the big aha moment. The innovation was something called dual format architecture. And it was so simple, it was brilliant. Instead of forcing you to choose, they just said, hey, why not have both? The plan was to keep the data in both formats at the same time, in memory. So you'd have your traditional row format for all those speedy transactions, and a brand new column format sitting right next to it for blazing fast analytics. Just like that, the trade-off. It was gone.
Now, saying it is one thing, but actually making it work? That took serious engineering. They came up with a whole suite of new tech. First, really clever compression to squeeze as much data into memory as possible. Then, they introduced something called vector processing, which is just a fancy way of saying they could do one calculation on a whole column of data all at once, instead of going row by boring row. And finally, they totally rewrote the book on how the database finds and connects data, things called scans and joins, making them run at unbelievable speeds, all inside that in-memory store.
And I really want to drive this point home. This wasn't just some new add-on feature they bolted onto the side. No way. This was a complete fundamental rethinking of the database engine from the ground up. It literally changed the DNA of what the Oracle database was capable of.
But the story doesn't stop there. This incredible breakthrough, it wasn't just a one-and-done thing that happened back in 2014. It was really the first page of a whole new chapter for Oracle.
And you can see that evolution right here on this timeline. It all kicked off in 2014 with version 12c, which was all about that initial mission, speeding up analytics. But then, with 18c and 19c, it got smarter, more automated. It kind of learned to manage itself. And by the time 21c came around, it was completely retooled for the cloud era. This whole journey just proves how incredibly important this tech became. It was now at the very heart of Oracle's entire database strategy.
So let's step back. What was the real impact of all this innovation? What did it actually mean for all those businesses that were stuck in the slow lane, just waiting for answers?
Well, what it meant was that something entirely new was born. The Oracle database wasn't just a transactional workhorse anymore. It became a true hybrid platform. It could handle the fast-paced transactions and the deep dive analytics at the same time on the same live data. A total game changer.
And for the business, the impact was enormous. I mean, all of a sudden, you could run these incredibly complex reports right on your live, up-to-the-second data. Those awful overnight batch jobs that everybody hated, poof, gone. This gave companies a massive competitive edge. And let's be real, it was also a direct shot across the bow at competitors like SAP HANA, who were trying to build their whole company around this in-memory idea.
Look, if there is one single thing you remember from all of this, let it be this. For decades, there was this giant invisible wall in every business. On one side was the data that ran the company, and on the other side was the data used to analyze the company. They were separate worlds. Oracle in-memory, well, that was the sledgehammer that finally knocked that wall down for good.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Analytics at the speed of thought. It's not just a catchy marketing phrase. It perfectly captures what this was all about. It was never just about making queries run a little bit faster. It was about completely closing the gap between having a question and getting the answer, making insight feel, well, instantaneous. A truly foundational shift in what's possible with data.